We are live. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook, on our YouTube channel. Happy Monday, everybody. Back to work Monday. You got a case of the Mondays today? I don't think a lot of people have the case of the Mondays anymore. The Montreal Canadiens, my friends, one of the hottest teams going in the National Hockey League today. They had 4 points on the table on the weekend. They took 3 out of a possible 4. You've got unbelievable individual performances, a coach that has resurrected players from 6 feet under. And now what? Let's take the opportunity to bring in one of my favorite people covering the Montreal Canadiens. You watch him on Global News. You read him on globalnews.ca, the call of the Wild after every Montreal Canadiens game. You follow him on Twitter, Brian Wilde, Be Wild. Welcome to In the Car with me, Sean Starr. How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm great, and I'm happy to be in the car with you. Our car backgrounds look different, but that's the modern world, right? We're in the same car.
It is, and when
looking like this, did I look the right way? No, it's this way.
Yeah.
That's hard to figure out, right? Hi, buddy.
Yeah. The comments coming in. Hi, Wild Man. Jim tuning into us live. It was funny because when I asked you, I said, "Oh, you want to join me? You have time today? Can you make time to come in the car?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll come in the car." I'm like, "Wow, he's gonna go in his car." I'm like, "Amazing."
I'm happy now. Fairly long drive, but I'm on my way, buddy.
Yeah, so we're having fun, having a laugh. The Canadiens, dude, are guns blazing, 7-2-1, down from 2-0 Saturday night to the Kraken. Come back, lose that game in a shootout. They go to Philadelphia after hosting to a capacity crowd. The next night, they're in Philadelphia, down 2-1, down 3-2. They win the game in overtime on the nicest pass by a defenseman since Erik Karlsson to Mike Hoffman. I don't know. But, Brian, let's start right off the hop. It took 45 games for Ducharme to get this team to 8 wins. It took 14 games for Martin St. Louis to get to 8 wins. 8-5-1 in 14 games under Martin St. Louis. Obviously, he has a magic touch, but is there something for you that jumps out more than anything else?
Well, you know what jumped out after the game is that when you looked at the bench, the celebration was absolutely wild. It was like Game 7 of a playoff series. And then when they greeted all the players after, I just saw the video only moments ago that the Canadiens released there on their Twitter feed. And again, Cole Caulfield is celebrating. Like, find somebody who loves you like Cole Caulfield loves hockey, right? and I think that's what's striking me most right now, Sean, is they didn't get the memo.
No.
The memo. They have completely we need to lose games for Shane Wright or someone of an equal skill set. If you guys could stop playing so well, that would be great. They did not get that memo. They want all the wins that they can get. Can you imagine though, Sean? It can't happen. I know it can't happen, but I have this horrible vision of them going, and so the Canadiens will draft 11th, which means they give Arizona the slot.
Yes.
But it won't happen. I know it can't happen. It's mathematically impossible. But
well, that was the worst case.
They ran off 25 straight.
Correct. And I define that as worst case, Brian. I define that as worst case. Like, I will never cheer for a team to lose and lose on purpose, right? I want guys to win. Winning is fun. Winning breeds a good culture. Losing is the opposite of all of those things. And the worst case scenario for me was falling outside the top 10, maybe even falling outside the top 5. And it wasn't lost on me that they're doing all this heavy lifting with Martin St. Louis, and they actually dropped a spot to be the worst team points-wise in the National Hockey League, right? I mean, it's crazy.
It just shows, dude, that it is like when people say if they start, well, hold it now, they won 7 of 8, and they still didn't gain a spot, which just shows how deep the hole is when you get like that.
Yeah. Right. So tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, because we let in with Ducharme's .260 winning percentage, 8-30-7 when he was fired after the 7-1 drubbing at the hands of the Devils. I don't want Jeff Petrie on the Montreal Canadiens for the fact that I believe that he, with others, cost Ducharme a job, and that Brian, this is my take, he flat out quit on the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know how he can look at other guys in that room that were trying to make a name, trying to make a career, trying to make a season for themselves. And you got one guy who really, I'll put it nicely, seemed disengaged all of the time. But now, like others, has turned the corner. That's not someone I think is part of a winning culture that you want to have for the long term. Brian, am I wrong with that thinking?
Well, you know what happened, Sean, I think we lose sight of it sometimes, that get depressed sometimes, and I get anxious sometimes too. And I'd like always be happy, and I'd like never to feel anxious. But it happens, especially in a COVID world when you've been isolated and stuff like that for large periods of time. And I bring that up, not for you to go, "Oh, Brian, are you all right, buddy?" I bring it up for the reason that I think Jeff Petrie got depressed, Sean. I think he was a human being who got depressed. I think he missed his kind of wife and his family. And I think he just got super sad about life. He wasn't having fun at the rink. He wasn't having fun when he got home and his family wasn't there. And I'm not saying that, you're making a ton of money and you need to be a professional. I'm not forgetting about all that. That's important too. And that's being a professional. But I think if you're going to not be a professional, it's when it feels like there's nothing to play for. It feels like your family's far away. You feel lonely. There's no happiness at the rink. And, I want to make excuses for Jeff Petrie, Sean, because I think it was the worst that the world can offer a human being in that moment. And if ever there's a moment to show some compassion for the human condition, I think Jeff Petrie was feeling the depths of humanity there. And I think he found some friends at the hockey rink to help him out of it.
That's Brian Wilde joining us in the car with Starr, brought to you by Poutineville, Vaudreuil-Dorion, K-Stop, Gaspar, Highway 138 in Ganawage. Of course, we're reading Brian after every Montreal Canadiens game. Call of the Wild at global.ca to find him online. And when we talk about, obviously, what's happened with Martin St. Louis and how good this team has been, and Jeff Petrie, part of the reason why this team has found competitive balance again. Like, what do you think about Marty's opinion when it comes to certain players on this team? How much do you think Gordon and Hughes should weigh St. Louis' opinion about certain players that those other two guys in the front office might have designs of trading? How much do you think St. Louis' opinion matters into what the future has in store before the 21st?
Oh, wow. I think pretty much all of it. I'm that impressed with him, and I think he's that intelligent. And I think if they're going to conceptually head to the future, it's his ideas on the ice that are going to produce wins. So they're going to have to find his players. Yeah, it's a lot of power for a head coach, right? Especially a new one with no experience. But I think he's shown, like, his intelligence level is just off the charts. I mean, there's an article that Arpon Basu and Marc-Antoine Gaudin wrote about his philosophy. I don't know if you caught that one in The Athletic, but I mean, I was just reading the 10 things that Arpon and Mag laid out, and you're like, this guy's an absolute natural at this. So I want him to listen to Martin St. Louis a lot. But at the same time, they got to listen to themselves too, because back to Jeff Petrie for a second, he's 34 years old. And if somebody wants him, he's 34 years old. And that's the worst thing that's hamstringing the entire Canadiens organization right now is that Marc Bergevin believed that everyone's body could get to 40 years of age like his did. You know what I mean? Because Bergevin lasted forever. He was 38, 39. He put in 20 years. And I think he was under the impression, Sean, that everyone has a body like his and can last that long. Well, I'm sorry, but Brendan Gallagher's already slowing down. He's 29. Guys slow down at 29, 30, 31 as forwards, and 33, 34, 35 as defensemen. And look at all the contracts that they got to get from under. It's crazy. That's the worst part of the franchise. I mean, never mind Gallagher and Petrie in terms of long-term ones. I mean, obviously Weber and Price, and you can say LTIR and everything. But I mean, we know that in the summer those contracts are on the books, so you can't go more than 10% over the cap in the summer to try to get a free agency before you finally get to prove that the guys are sick and they can't play. So it's going to be a long road to get from under long-term contracts. That's the biggest issue.
It is. It looks bad. The loyalty contracts, the penchant of leaning towards players that maybe resembled his style of play, his approach.
Yeah, absolutely,
he loved those. And I was talking with Connor McKenna this morning on TSN 690 about Cedric Paquette, right? Gets brought in on a 1-year, $950,000 contract, gets put on waivers, clears waivers on Saturday. And my question is, and I'll ask you, Do you think he signed Paquette because you had people while the Canadiens were winning rounds 1, 2, and 3 saying il y a pas d'assez de gars de chez nous, il y a pas de Québécois dans le vestiaire, il y a pas de gars de Québécois qui jouent pour les Canadiens, sont tous les Anglos. Qu'est-ce qui arrive à Montréal dans ce temps-là? And now he's like, oh yeah, not enough French guys. Oh, wait a minute, hold my. Here's Perreault, here's Paquette, and now Paquette clears. Do you think he's guilty of just looking at what some people were saying and said, oh, fine, you want good chez nous? Here's a bunch of crappy good chez nous.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. I mean, I would love if the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League was producing a lot of top-ranked hockey players so we didn't ever have to have this conversation. But what if the degradation of that league continues and they have even a lower percentage of that league player from Quebec being in the NHL? I mean, this is a grassroots problem that the Canadiens can't solve by putting lousy hockey players on their team.
No,
you know, I mean, and if there's like one guy a year from the Quebec League, and you know, and it's Lafreniere and he goes first, what are you going to do about that? You know, it's not as easy as it looks. That complaint is one that I think is valid because I come from Edmonton, right? And when there was a local kid that did well, there was excitement. It's only natural. And I used to cover the Olympics for CTV. And when an Edmonton kid did well in Edmonton, it was the lead story. They put me on at 6:01. When it was a kid from Ontario who won the gold medal, they kept me on at 6:40. You know what I'm getting at? So I think it's completely natural to love the local guy. But if the league continues to degrade like it is, and there's really not much talent there, you know, like how many Quebec-born players are in the NHL right now? I mean, it's almost becoming a math difficulty. So, you know, well, I hope he didn't do it, but I think he did. I think so too. And you know what I mean? It's not like he was trying to get fired. He was on a contract year anyway. So if Molson wanted to can him, he could have canned him. It's not like he was trying to get himself fired by deliberately. Let me ask you a question. Why did he get fired?
I think
I think it's 5 reasons, but give me your top 5.
Well, I think he was fired before the Canadiens got a charitable berth into the play-in round against Pittsburgh. I think Jeff Molson had birdies whispering in his ear. You've got bad contracts. You've tried one direction. You gave him the keys to the city. And Brian, I don't have a problem with Jeff Molson giving that much trust to one guy. Have the balls to have a vision and have enough courage to follow through. And he tried and it didn't work. So you take the keys back. So I think he was fired before Pittsburgh. The NHL gives them the charitable berth. They beat Pittsburgh, lose to Philadelphia. They get another charitable berth into the Western Conference, come back to beat the Leafs 3-1, get to the Stanley Cup final, lose in 5 games. I think he was all gone, all well before then. I really do. I think Jeff Molson gave him enough rope to let him run, see what you could do. And it eventually came back to him. Bad contracts, bad vision, archaic ways of thinking, and keeping the Montreal Canadiens in the later stages of the 18th century. All that added up to he had to go.
Yeah, I like the answer in its entirety. And the last sentence, I know about the 18th century, what you mean there too. And I agree with that one as well. I think that precipitated much of it. And we're talking without saying the words Logan Mailloux.
Well, that's right. And you look at what happened. And look, I was so sick and tired of, the Canadiens, they had no right to be there. Okay, fine. You win that argument. But they were there. And they did beat the Leafs down 1-3. They did sweep the Jets. They did bully Vegas. And they got cracked by Tampa. Those are all realistic things, nothing to do with luck or anything else. That's just the reality of the situation they found themselves in. And the guy who was behind the bench, Brian, took him, 8 wins, 30 losses, 7 draws, and a .260 winning percentage. That was the coach. You know?
Yeah, it was. And that's weird, right? Because then the next year and he can't do anything. But I'll tell you what, I've said this a million times. I got 2 sayings that I always say. I repeat over and over again. They're my thing. Win the middle, win the game, and you can call the hockey. You can call the game of hockey the game of goalie. And Carey Price for 3 rounds was 9-3-5, and then he went to something like 8-9-5 in the 4th round. So, but you know what I love about getting back to the present for a second. Yeah. And Gorton and Hughes have said it, and I just love it. Is that for pretty much the entire 21st century, and you do win games when you have strong defense. You know, when you have a Shea Weber, you're going to win some games. When you have a Carey Price who can pull in a 9.35, you're going to win some games. But you know what I really like is if they're going to build this around excitement. I want them to build this around me getting out of my chair, which is the Cole Caulfield slap shot in overtime where he takes the water bottle off. And that's what I want to enjoy in the next 20 years is their philosophy. Like, let's get fans off their seats. We got the best fans in the world. And as a result, we can give them kind of Claude Julien, Dominic Ducharme hockey and get far on the back of Carey Price. But isn't it more fun to have your best players, your stars, fans or players that take the fans out of the seats? And I'm really looking forward to that. And I can see it happening already, and it's exciting me.
Well said. You can read Brian's Call of the Wild like I did this morning. Some strong takeaways from Brian's piece. 11 games, 16 points for Nick Suzuki. Mm-hmm. Suzuki leaves the Caulfield line and jumps on board with Mike Hoffman and Brendan Gallagher. That pairs well. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, your point about goaltending and getting you out of your seat, I was so sick and tired of, the last 100-point guy, Madsen Laslund, the last 50-goal scorer, Stefan Richer. Like, from Ken Dryden and Brian to present day, the face, the reason, la raison d'etre for the Montreal Canadiens has been the goalie. So for the fan base to see the possibility, this high ceiling of Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, as you wrote today, for the next 8 years, this is what makes me so excited about the Gordon Hughes era, that I choose to believe that the organization under Jeff Molson's ownership has reprioritized. They've reprioritized hockey wins over Quebec politics. You have two guys basically from Boston running the Montreal Canadiens, and you've got now a coach who's so open-minded, who's so modern, who's so 21st century NHL, Brian. He's like, Caulfield, you're a sniper. Go snipe, bro. Suzuki, you're a skilled player. Go be skilled. Who cares about the trap and the getting back and blah, 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 blah. Finally, a coach with enough balls, pardon the expression, to put them on the table and say, I'm going to live and die with my skilled guys. Brian, I mean, you talk about fresh air in the room. I mean, this is what we've needed for 30 years almost.
Sure, and you can see it philosophically in the way that Cole Caulfield would be a right winger, because defensively he gets an opportunity to take the puck from the defenseman off the half wall and get it out of the zone, and he's better defensively. However, we know from a right-handed shot on the left side, he gets to receive the passes on odd man rushes without the puck going across his body, which is easier, and then he sees more of the net when he's on the left side with a right shot. So you're saying to yourself, well, why philosophically would you make that change? Because Martin St. Louis is the head coach, and he wants to see his offensive players get a chance to be better defensively. And if there's a little bit of pushback on the defensive side of the puck, like a harder play on the half wall from the left side, big effing deal. And another thought going back to your other one, Sean, that hits me really is we always say to ourselves the next day when we talk hockey with our friends, we say to ourselves something to the effect of, holy shit, did you see that goal?
Yeah. Right.
How often do we say, holy shit, did you see that save?
Yeah, I said I must have said it 3 times today off last night's overtime winner. Sherrod's pass.
It's just human nature for us to go, holy shit, I got out of my seat. That goal was amazing. And no offense to saves, because saves are great, and a guy goes like this, and, you know, it looks great, and we love it and everything, but it's just not the same. It's goals, man. Goals are fun. And, you can have a nice 1-0 game, and you can have a nice 2-1 game, but they're certainly a lot more rare than, you know, the 6-5 game and the 5-4 game that we celebrate. And you know what else is good, too, is now if they get off to a bad start and they're down 2-0, like they were on the weekend, down by 2 goals, you get the sense that the game isn't over.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They're chasing the win. They're not protecting it. You know, if they have a lead, they're not praying for overtime or a shootout. I mean, my gosh, you know, open hockey. Who would have thought a former MVP, a Stanley Cup champ, a guy who's defied the odds, who came up from Vermont to the NC2A route, would be an inspiration to a team that desperately needed inspiration? Martin St. Louis, Dominic Ducharme, let's call it here. He costed Cole Caulfield a Calder Trophy. Martin St. Louis, your coach of the year. It's amazing.
Well, 15 points in 11 games, Sean.
Dude.
I think it was 8 in How many did he have in the previous 26? I think it's like 4 or 5 or something. I mean, it's just
I see 610 winning percentage. I mean, like the team, they're never out of games. They're fun to watch. They're not getting blown out anymore. They're not getting outshot 50-10. You know what I mean? It's a complete 180. You know? Like, it's bad.
They allowed 47 to 53 shots 3 games in a row.
Well, that's it. We talk about like, do players quit on coaches? Like, we need to bookmark the 45 games in our brains and reference that the next time we think a team has quit on a coach, because it is undeniable this team strongly disliked Dominic Ducharme and wanted nothing to do with anything he had to say about how to approach any given game. That is crystallized in my mind all day, every day.
Sure. And I mean, I mentioned on Twitter here from one player that they were a little disgruntled and they feel free now, then you say, well, I could just be a disgruntled player. But then when you hear it from like so many players that say, I feel free now, I know what I'm doing now. You know, it's just, it's pretty obvious that there was something afoot there, because instinctively a player doesn't want to say anything. Right. I mean, if I were a player, I'd never say anything. I'd never give you, Sean, any fodder at all. Why would you? My upside to giving you fodder. Yeah. But at a certain point, there's like this pride kicks in and this honesty that kicks in, and like the need to speak the truth usually happens because you're just so upset that the lie can't stand anymore. No. And that's where they were in speaking their truth now.
Let's look at a couple of quick rapid fires. We're a week away from the trade deadline. It's March 14th. 7 days from today, we'll have the deadline. So let's go rapid fire. Like, what do we expect? So the big one is Ben Sherrod. Our colleague Eric Engels basically wrote a goodbye piece to Ben Sherrod. If Sunday's game was his last, I mean, what a game to go out on. The great feed to Caulfield, 26 minutes of ice time on Sunday night, just solid all-around play. What do you ultimately think happens between now and the 21st with Ben Sherrod?
Well, Eric, who I had a little texting session with him during the game last night while we watched, tells me it's going to be Sherrod and Lehkonen, and that's it. And I believe Eric, because that dude's really tuned in now, man.
Yeah, he is.
He talks to everybody now. It's kind of crazy. He's arrived. He's like first tier now. And Eric says just those two guys. So what Eric says is what I believe. And it looks like they're both, according to Eric as well, fetching first rounders. And when I talked to Eric about, well, wouldn't it be nice if there were more? He said, well, who wants them?
Right.
You know? Who wants Byron's contract?
Who wouldn't want Mike Hoffman?
I don't know. Who wouldn't? Do you think? Well, yeah. You know, and I mean, maybe Hoffman gets in the mix. Like, do you think Hoffman's in the mix to be traded? I don't.
I think he's. I wouldn't classify him in the mix. I think he's very, 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 very under the radar. Like, I think, you know, you talk about what Engels was telling you about Sherrod, Lehkonen. Those are the big fish in this pond here. I think Mike Hoffman's a minnow, personally. If I'm to go the whole way with this analogy,
you don't like his game, in other words.
No, and look, I mean, the money that he's getting paid, you're basically hiring a Marc-Andre Bergeron. He's a specialist. You know, you need a goal in a 5-on-4, 4-on-3. You put Hoffman on the ice. He's got an electric fast release, and that's pretty much what he does very well at this level, right? So I don't think there's a bidding war here, essentially.
No, definitely not. And I think there only are two bidding wars. And that's, I think, Eric's point on the matter is there's really no bidding war for anybody else. But maybe you get a small return on some of these bad contracts. But I'll tell you what we haven't mentioned, and I think is maybe the most important one. Well, no, I shouldn't say the most important one. The most important one was obviously Sherrod, because he's a UFA. You got to go get a first. But after that, even more important than Lehkonen is you've got to find a buyer for Weber. You got to find a team. You got to find a team that says, I'll take that cap. Because he's getting minimal amount of money, like $1 million or something, because he got it all front loaded. So that's absolutely vital, because if they've still got that 7.5 on the books, they're really hamstrung to sign UFAs if they want to start competing again. So if they find somebody that needs to hit the floor, Arizona, then that would be fantastic.
Well, that's it. I mean, Arizona's the team. I think Arizona's really the team that could get this done. But that's gonna happen. Like
I hope so. I think it's a must.
I definitely would categorize that as a must. The one last player I want to get your take on, because he's fascinating if we put him under the what if category. Like, what if this guy was here on this team in the last 14 games? What would we think about his performance? And we can't get a credible answer because we haven't seen him. It's Jonathan Drouin. When we see dude, we see these players with skill, the new philosophy of breathe if you're a skilled player, flourish in this environment. I am itching, dude, for Jonathan Drouin just to see, because I'm one of the small guys. Connor likes to poke fun of me because I think before his injury, I thought he was having a good season. I liked his compete level. I thought he was a hell of a lot more consistent. So, dude, I want to know. I need to know, Brian, what Jonathan Drouin would look like. Does your gut tell you that he would be flourishing like Suzuki and Caulfield?
Well, on Twitter the other day, I was looking for a GIF of William Wallace in Braveheart yelling freedom. Because I really feel like that's how Jonathan Drouin is going to feel. Like he's just going to want to start yelling freedom and then charge down a Scottish plane to see if life is different. Because he's been, told his entire Montreal life to make sure that he minds his P's and Q's on the defensive side of the puck. And so if it's kind of a Caulfield scenario where Martin St. Louis says, hey, dude, you remember when you played in Halifax and like absolutely nobody could stop you offensively and you basically, just kept the puck on your stick as long as you wanted? Hey, go see if you can do that again.
Please.
It could be super fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And I also would like to see Dvorak underneath the new head coach, who seems to find the better elements of a player and concentrate on those and make those players flourish. To me, there's only one guy that hasn't had a complete turnaround flourish, and that's Armia.
Yeah.
But other than that, everybody's like, hey, this is fun. I'm loving this. This guy's awesome. He told me to do the things I do best instead of the things I can't do at all.
Exactly.
And keep that up. So, freedom.
Well, that's what made me, like when Darren Dreger told Connor McKenna and I on Friday's show on TSN 690, when he prefaced it by saying, listen, you're probably going to fall off your chair in a second, but the Canadiens are getting calls on Yoel Armia. I'm like, Joya Yoel, indeed. Peace. Get him out of here on the first bus, please.
Which was another Bergevin signing. I love
it. Was. Yes. Yeah.
I refer to those as my I love me signing. Like all the defensive defensemen. Carl Elsner, that guy plays like me.
Hey, he's the most handsomest Canadiens player I've ever seen. I mean, Jesus Christ, isn't he a beautiful man, Carl Elsner? Thanks so much for joining us. I have to ask you this, okay? You know I'm a bit of a passionate golfer. And
get out of here.
Yeah.
Really?
True story, dude. True story, I swear to you. And every year, your dear friend and my dear friend, the late, great Randy Tiemann and I would get together once a year. We would at Kanawaki, at Kanawaki Golf Club. I would bring him over. We'd make a whole day of it because he was one of the first guys that really got me into golf and showed me proper technique. And we always bonded over the game together. So I always made it a point every year, lunch, drinks, 18 holes the whole day, right? And so one day, before I'm a member at a posh place like Kanawaki, it's me, Elliot Price, Randy Tiemann. We're playing some local public course somewhere. And I hit a tee shot off the toe, and it goes like right angle into the woods, into the cattails, Okay, so Randy goes, "You're never going to believe this. I'm playing with the Wild Man. That's what we call Brian, the Wild Man, right?" And he goes, "You're never going to believe this, but and correct me if I'm wrong about the details, but something like this. It was like the Wild Man swung once, missed the ball, swung again." Hits the toe, does what I did, puts it into the cattails, third shot, smokes it, and you shot more or less even par the rest of the day or two over. Is that right? Does that actually happen?
It's been cut down. Usually stories get more elaborate. This has been cut down. I actually missed the first time completely. The second time it was the air that took the ball off the tee and it went 2 inches. I put it back on, I hit the toe, and then I hit the next one 270 straight down the middle, and I looked at the guys, And I said, guys, like, if we forgive me all of that, I think I can put a pretty good round together. So can I be one off the tee? And they look at me like, who's going to fucking care? Right? You know, you're going to shoot 130. You got lucky once. And so I think I shot like 72, 74, something like that. And I don't know, but you know, here's the second story. If you got 10 seconds. My favorite story is not my, you know, mulligan off the first that ended up being a really good round. My favorite story is we're on about the third, and I have like a little OCD, and it manifests on the golf course just a little too much at times. So I'm over the ball. I'm practicing my putt. I'm doing like, it's got to be 30 practice swings, right? Over the putt. And it's only like a 4-footer. And T's been watching me the whole time, and he's kind of like 6 feet behind me, and I know he's doing this with Elliot. So he walks up behind me. I can see him do that. Yeah, he walks up behind me, Randy, and he hits me on the shoulder, and he says, "Bud, starts at 4. It's 9 right now, and if you don't hurry up, I'm not going to make my shift. So can you knock your shit off, please?"
Oh, I love him. Oh, sports stash.
Randy always had the ability to say like the meanest thing, but you loved them. Yeah. Like some people say a lousy thing and you go, I hate that asshole. Randy will say a thing to you like, you're an annoying guy right now, eh? But you kind of like, thanks, buddy. Thanks for being harsh to you. We
miss you, Sports Stash. I love you, Randy. Great memories, dude. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time. We've been doing this for 31 minutes, felt like 2 minutes for me. I love your work and love seeing you on social media. Thanks for the time today. We appreciate it, man.
And let me reciprocate by saying that the best show is you and Connor. It's intelligent, it's funny, it's insightful, and you guys get along so well. You never cut each other off or reveal any of the bad blood that must have been working 24/7 for so many years together. But you two are awesome, and I enjoy you every morning that I can.
Thank you so much. We'll see you online. Don't forget, Call the Wild, Brian Wild. Follow him on Twitter. Thanks, Brian.
Cheers.
Perfect.